Madison and I originally met almost 10 years ago and instantly became great friends. Both of us grew raised in the South, where our ardent Christian upbringing taught us to prioritize God over everything else, even family. Our Sundays were spent visiting churches and having positive chats about our future goals. I followed a solid technical job with promising prospects, whereas Madison thrived at selling accounting software for a big technology business in Austin. Before we married, my parents kindly provided me a 3-bedroom house after I graduated from college. They chose to distribute their fortune throughout their lived, rather than after they died. Mom and Dad found satisfaction in giving when they were still alive. Madison and I exchanged vows just over 8 years ago, and it has felt like an extended honeymoon ever since. Our private life was passionate, with encounters occurring at least 5 evenings each week. Our friends frequently ridiculed us, envious of our connection and viewing us as soulmates. We were overjoyed when we welcomed 2 gorgeous blonde twin daughters into our life. Following their birth, our whole emphasis switched to providing them with a supportive and loving atmosphere. Some may have regarded our lifestyle boring. We typically dined at home most evenings, saving Friday and Saturday nights for outings and Sundays for church. Unlike our friends, we were not interested in networking or following fashion trends. Madison favored traditional dress at work and at home, and we kept our private times in our bedroom. Our marriage was founded on trust and honesty, which provided a firm foundation. Madison was naturally passionate, showing her love with soft gestures, kisses, and embraces, which I cherished. We honestly discussed our emotions and really valued each other. Raising twins was difficult, but I cherish every moment with them. While the twins occasionally stressed Madison out, I was always there to help her through any problems. Our cooperation was built on efficient communication, which allowed us to handle concerns quickly. Life with Madison and our twin kids was easygoing and rewarding. However, a week before the annual show, Madison was informed that she was required to participate due to the illness of numerous co-workers. Despite her best attempts to decline, she had no option owing to the urgency. She expressed her apologies, stating she despised being away from us and had attempted to avoid it by calling her employer. I convinced her that we'd be okay without her for a few days. We would really miss her. I assisted her in packing and escorted her to the limo provided by the firm for her airport travel. Our marriage had always been solid, based on trust and honesty. Madison has never shown signs of being unloving or unfaithful. We shared everything honestly and worked as a team, especially with our children. On the second night of the show, I received a text from James, a co-worker and friend who was attending a cybersecurity event in Austin. He mentioned seeing Madison throughout the exhibition. He questioned whether I was meant to attend the security conference. He looked interested in the trade event Madison was going, which I verified was in Austin, though I wasn't aware of the actual name. James's messages made me question what he was attempting to suggest. His message included 2 photographs and a video. I sat immobilized with fear as I opened them. The first shot showed my wife in an attire I didn't recognize, the shortest dress I'd ever seen her wear, with a plunging neckline that highlighted her large breast. She wore heels I didn't recognize, and her hair and cosmetics were immaculate, exuding gorgeous charisma. She had never seemed so seductive to me. At first I told myself that it had to be someone who looked like Madison. It seemed unlikely that it could be her. I grinned silently, wishing Madison might dress like that someday. The amusement vanished with the following shot, a close-up of her sitting next to Ethan, one of her supervisors. I sat astonished and immobile, not blinking until the next photograph showed. It was a close-up of her smiling while looking into Ethan's eyes. My heart dropped at the sight. I attempted to argue that there had to be a logical answer, but it seemed hopeless. The following communication was a little video clip of my wife kissing Ethan, her arms around his neck and his hand on her right breast. My entire world fell apart at that second. Anguished tears flowed down my cheeks, my pulse pounded, and a wave of nausea washed over me. A message came through. "Are you okay? What will I do? Can you see her now?" I said. "Yes, I will call her right away to check on her." I phoned her number, and it rang multiple times before reaching voicemail. I left a message expressing our want to chat with her, and hoping she was having a great evening. I updated James. "I just tried to reach her." "What happened?" James's guilt was evident. "David, I apologize for this." She removed her phone from her purse, checked the caller ID, and then returned it to her purse. "I cannot believe it is her. I've never seen her behave or dress this way before. James, it's okay. Thank you for being open with me. You are a real buddy. I will handle this myself. If possible, avoid facing her. Keep me updated if anything more happens. But don't waste your time trailing her. I will handle things from here. Will you be okay, buddy? No, I am not okay, but I know what I need to do. I will manage it. I'm still reeling from the shock, but I'll deal with it. Thank you again. Anytime. I am here for you. Take care of yourself. Thank you once again. I poured a stronger drink and sat in the dimly lit living room, trying to cope with the rapid collapse of my existence in less than 30 minutes. I hadn't seen any problems in our relationship. How long was this going on? Were I honestly ignorant to the signs? No, she never caused me concern. In reality, during the last year, our friendship had grown stronger. Our intimacy grew. None of it made sense, leaving me perplexed. James shared additional photographs and videos over the next hour. A short video showed them dancing with his hand on her back. Another image shows them kissing on the dance floor. A snapshot showed a passionate private kiss on an empty dance floor, oblivious to the music's ending. I accepted that it was finished between us. I had a lot to comprehend and grasp. Using my engineering analytical talents, I spent the following few days developing a thorough strategy. Then, surprisingly, Madison contacted me at 9 p.m., just after I received the damning last photograph. I took a long breath, attempting to calm my anxiety and resolve not to expose any knowledge of her betrayal. Hello there. I'm sorry I missed your previous call. I was at a dinner meeting and couldn't leave. I miss you so terribly, baby. I wish I could be with you, snuggling beneath the blankets and kissing you. I miss you, Madison. I genuinely adore you. Thank you for calling. The girls are doing wonderfully. I will email you some photographs. They miss their mother and cannot wait for you to return home. I attempted to depart tomorrow, but my supervisor urged that I stay. I dread being away from you, sweetie. Will rejoice when I return. Are you finished for today? Yeah, I'm getting ready for bed after a hard day. I love you, baby. I will call you tomorrow. Good night, Madison. I said, I love you more than words can express, before hanging up as tears welled up in my eyes. Despite everything, my feelings for her were genuine, and I prayed this was simply a bad dream. Lying in bed around midnight, I couldn't sleep because I was worried about if she was truly in her hotel room and what she was doing. James sent another message, which reinforced my suspicions. The snapshot was of Madison and Ethan kissing on a lobby sofa. His hand was beneath her short skirt, and her arms wrapped around his neck. They resembled a couple hopelessly in love. And one final thing, friend. I'm done for the day, but it appears she's busy. Let me know if you'd like me to stop. I can easily terminate this. It's difficult to confront right now, but thank you for the photographs. There's no reason to quit. Let her be. It's her fault, not your own. Stay out of it. Thank you again. I wept myself to sleep since the reality of my wife's infidelity wounded deep. Eventually, tiredness and the presence of our girls offered some relief, reducing the anguish and sorrow till I awoke the next morning. Madison had written me many heartfelt texts complete with hearts, kisses, and emoticons. She declared her love and said how much she missed both me and the daughters. She even hinted at a passionate night when she returned. When she returned, she was full of love and devotion, as if nothing had occurred. I began to wonder whether she had a dissociative problem or was taking any medicine. Despite my urgent quest for reasons, I recognized I needed to confront the terrible reality and prepare for her return home. Our chat appeared normal, with Madison expressing her want to be with us again. I couldn't determine which stung more, her adultery or the labyrinth of falsehoods she had built. The treachery wounded as much as seeing her with Ethan. After discovering my wife's adultery through James's communications, I realized I needed to take serious action. Using my technical talents, I secretly put tracking software on her phone. Initially meant to locate missing gadgets, I picked the most recent software available and even took Madison through its setup. This software also included a voice recorder that could record calls, messages, and emails, and, if engaged, automatically upload them to the cloud. To be clear, I never planned to spy on her, but circumstances forced my hand. Prior to this, I would not have thought breaching her privacy. However, recent occurrences have entirely crushed my trust. My top objective was to safeguard our girls and, if possible, restore our marriage. Fortunately, caring for the twins kept me busy, providing a respite from the constant thoughts of our deteriorating relationship. Whether it was cooking breakfast, cleaning up after them, or playing with their dolls, these moments were priceless amidst the chaos. Trust me, caring for 3-year-old twins is no easy task. At 1 p.m., I finally got the girls to take their midday sleep. After cleaning the home and taking a shower, I sat at the table to catch up on things. Madison had sent me 5 more romantic texts, stating that she would call at 6 p.m. her day was finished. After reading them, I connected to the cloud via my laptop, signed into her account, and checked everything recorded since I started the tracking program. I was taken aback when I read the messages exchanged with Ethan. Here are some snippets. "You were amazing last night, baby. Cannot wait for tonight. Thank you, Kitty. I also enjoyed it. Can we go to my room after work before dinner? Certainly, but I need to contact my spouse first. I should be ready by 6:15. Is your hubby suspecting anything? Of course not. He believes I love him, and I will keep it that way. We have kept it a secret for more than 8 months, and he has no idea. Do not worry." My fury became overpowering, prompting me to quit reading. Kitten? Did he call her kitten? That was my word of affection for her during our personal times. Had she also handed him that? Was I really so blind? What sort of an idiot was I? I yelled and dumped my laptop on a chair before snatching a lamp from the table and smashing it against the wall, shattering it into pieces. The wrath I had managed to contain suddenly engulfed me. Just as I was ready to destroy another lamp, I heard the girls wail. Their screams brought me back to reality, and I recovered control. I raced into their room and held both girls until they calmed down. After I cleaned up the glass from my outburst, I let them play in the living room while I sipped another strong drink and reflected on my behavior. In my opinion, the marriage was beyond repair, and it was time to act. I didn't have the stamina to listen to their discussions or check any more data, so I left them in the cloud. I resolved to play along with Madison, just like she had tricked me. My immediate strategy was to behave like a loving spouse while I considered my future moves. I planned to contact a divorce lawyer, engage a private detective, and find a means to obtain custody of the daughters. Their well-being was my primary concern, and the one thing that genuinely mattered to me. "Hi, honey. How are the girls doing?" "They're missing their mom. Oh my goodness, they are constantly on my mind, as are you. I can't wait to throw my arms around you once I come back. I'm going to give you the warmest kiss you've ever received." I maintained the deed, saying, "Oh, darling, I think of you constantly, longing to hold my beautiful, loving wife. Soon, my darling, we will be together again." I managed to maintain my composure throughout the 15-minute call. At 6:15, she signed off with, "I love you, David. I need to take the bus back to the hotel. I will message you later. I adore you." Another simple lie. She was extremely good at it. "I adore you, darling." "More than you can imagine," I said. Her deceit had caused her to feel disdain, hatred, and a burning need for vengeance. I was determined to expose her falsehoods and hold her accountable. My love for her had been all-consuming, making her betrayal that much more difficult to bear. She received me at the airport with an embrace and a kiss, exactly as she had promised. Either she was an exceptional performer, or she truly cared about me. Was her affair with Ethan strictly physical? Her conduct puzzled me. She spent an hour with the girls and truly enjoyed their company. That night, she was quite amorous in bed, telling me how much she missed me and the daughters, and how much she disliked being gone. She stated all she wanted was to be with me, hugging each other in bed. She was soft and caring, in sharp contrast to the lady shown in the photographs and films. I returned her adoration, hoping without hope that it was genuine, for being with her was all I wanted. But deep down, I knew it was just a matter of time until everything collapsed. I kept my newfound information disguised and lavished her with love and attention. Outsiders saw our relationship as flawless, and many envied it. This masquerade continued for 3 months, and I uncovered no evidence of future adultery. She returned home from work at the normal time each evening, with no strange calls or texts. I even dared to believe that it was all a big mistake, and that everything would go back to normal. Then I got a call from Mr. Johnson, a private investigator who asked to meet the next day. I drove downtown to his office and sat in the conference room. "Good afternoon, David." Mr. Johnson welcomed me. "Good to see you again." "Likewise, Mr. Johnson." "David, I wish I could give you better news, but I have some horrible news to share. Are you prepared to evaluate our findings?" I groaned and nodded, prepared for the worst. Mr. Johnson put a huge binder in front of me, labeled with sections for text messages, voice transcripts, video calls, phone call transcripts, and images. "Mr. Johnson, I'm confused. I've been keeping a tight eye on her activities and schedule for the previous 3 months, and nothing looked out of the norm. She's been an ideal wife and mother. None of this makes sense. Allow me to guide you through the evidence." Mr. Johnson said that it may assist to explain things. I had avoided accessing the cloud data, expecting for a better outcome, but my hopes were shattered. There were more than 80 pages of text communications, 30 pages of emails, and 80 pages of time-stamped images showing them entering and departing hotels. In addition, there were more than 90 video calls and 60 pages of phone discussions. Madison and Ethan had been meeting in a motel at least 5 times each week for the last 3 months, spending an average of 3 hours together each time. It appears that over the past month, 2 guys have met with your wife 4 times every week. Do you recognize this man? Mr. Johnson asked, pointing to a photograph. Oh my God. Is that John Walker, the CEO of her company? Are you telling me she's in relationships with 2 guys, one of which is her CEO? I'm sorry to tell this, but the evidence from text messages, phone conversations, and videos shows she's having a sexual connection with both guys. The video call labeled Balcony captures her and John in an intimate moment, unaware they were being taped. Our high-definition video recorded both their faces and the sounds. Mr. Johnson displayed the film on a big screen. Madison was leaning over a balcony railing, John behind her. I felt a rush of nausea and had to leave the room to collect myself. After a few minutes, I returned and encouraged them to continue. The video labeled Balcony 2 shows your wife with both John and Ethan. I'm sorry you have to witness this, but these recordings might be useful if you decide to pursue divorce and custody proceedings. I sat there, startled and bewildered. Could this actually be Madison? I really wanted it to be a mistake. David, we have looked at Ethan Green and John Walker. Ethan has been married for 15 years and has 3 small children. Mr. Walker has been married for 30 years and has 2 adult children. Text communications show that Ethan brought John into their activities after your wife showed an interest in a threesome. It's bleak, so we'll let you examine it when you're ready. Here's a folder and a USB drive with all of the data and videos your lawyer will want. When I met with my lawyer, she was astounded by the volume of evidence. She couldn't believe there had been no previous evidence of adultery at home. Madison continued to play the role of dedicated wife and mother, as if everything were normal. The lawyer detailed numerous legal alternatives based on the facts, but we needed more time to thoroughly investigate them, so we scheduled another visit for the following week. I asked her to begin filing the divorce paperwork as soon as possible. When I left the lawyer's office, I felt a heaviness in my stomach. I knew it was finished before these encounters, but seeing those tapes dashed all hopes of reconciliation. I was still in shock. Who was this woman? Later that evening, after the girls went to bed, we decided to watch a movie on Netflix. I heard that Unfaithful is an excellent film. Let us try it, I offered, well aware of the film's topic of infidelity. I had practiced my approach. During the movie, I casually mentioned a female intern at my office who had been interested in me for months. Could you envision me with another woman? I chuckled, attempting to appear indifferent. Madison's eyes narrowed. Really? Who is she? If I even believe you're thinking about her, I'm leaving. Got it? You're mine and no one else's, she said, her voice laced with startling ferocity. Given her own acts, her outrage was ludicrous. David, why haven't you told me about her sooner? What is her name? She pressed. Madison, calm down. She's merely an intern, a young lady who has been flirting a little. I've absolutely disregarded her. How about you, Madison? You are the most gorgeous lady in your office. Are you telling me that no one ever flirts with you? Of course not. They all know I am married and would never cheat on you. So, during our marriage, you've never considered being with another man? Not even a harmless kiss? Did you ever cheat on me, baby? I inquired, gazing straight into her eyes. Her cheeks reddened with rage. Are you serious? How are you even asking me that? I continually show you how much I adore you. I've always been faithful. I can't believe you'd think otherwise, she yelled. I apologized and agreed with her to preserve the peace before we continued viewing the movie. Internally, I admired her performance. She could have been an actor, given how successfully she lied. When she began to get back into the movie, I decided to take the next move. I grabbed my phone and opened the messaging app, where I discovered a snapshot of Madison and Ethan passionately kissing on the dance floor, his hand firmly on her buttocks. I gazed at the photograph, waiting for the appropriate moment. What are you doing, David? Why are you not watching the movie? Because what I'm looking at is far more realistic. What do you mean? I turned off the video and held out the picture for her to see. She froze, words stuck in her throat. I maintained my focus on the image. You're experiencing a really intense kiss with Ethan. Could you explain? Where did you obtain it? You were having supper with James, and he noticed you with this man. He gave this to me to confirm that it was you, and it is, isn't it? I have to add that you look gorgeous in that outfit. I've never seen you wear anything that exposing. Were you looking to impress your boyfriend? I responded, Go ahead, I'm listening, with a sarcastic tone in my voice. David, we just had one dance, and he was intoxicated. Following the song, he grabbed and kissed me. What you don't see is that I hit him immediately after, causing a scene. I would never allow it. I purchased this dress for a work occasion without realizing how exposed it was. "I'm so sorry," she mumbled, desperate. "Okay, I understand. This occurs. Was that the only incident?" "Yes, and he will not attempt it again." We resumed the movie, but I could sense her anxiety. After a few minutes, I took out my phone again, this time to see a video of them on a couch, his hand slipping beneath her skirt. She noticed, and her face paled. "What are you viewing right now? Remember that night when you phoned to say you were getting ready for bed after a hard day?" "Yes," she said nearly inaudibly. It's odd that I got another message from James 2 hours later. This time there was a video. "Do you want to see?" I hit play and saw her and Ethan kissing, his hands all over her. "I'd like to hear your explanation for this," I responded, my fury replaced by chilly amusement. "David, I'm very sorry." After we chatted, Ethan contacted to say we needed to talk about a client issue. He invited me to meet in the lobby. I drank a couple beers and became a little tipsy. You know how I get. Nothing happened beyond what you saw. I ordered him to stop and reminded him that I was married. "Please believe me." "Kitten," I murmured, stressing the affectionate moniker. "The trouble is, I've always trusted you. However, in the last 30 minutes, you have lied to me twice. Can you see my point of view? I'm here alone, and the lady I love is kissing her boss in images and movies while wearing the most exposing clothing I've ever seen. How do you suppose I'm feeling? David, I adore you. This occurred months ago. Why didn't you confront me earlier? I honestly wanted to see whether you would come clean. I wanted to think that my wife was honest and transparent, but now I can see where we stand. Are there any more lies? Are you involved with him? Do you adore him?" I asked, toying with her and relishing her agony. She sobbed, saying how much she loved me. "Please don't tell me how much you love me. I need answers. Are there any additional deceptions? David, please hear me out. Nothing more than a kiss happened. I admit I kissed him, but that was all. I told him to stop each time. I'm not sure what James saw, but you have to trust me." "Okay, stop sobbing. I trust you, yet I'm perplexed. You never dressed like that for me, nor did you do your hair and cosmetics in that manner. Was this for him? Do you have any feelings for him? Madison, are you considering leaving me? Please, I need the truth." Tears poured again. "No, David. My affection is just for you. I'd never want to lose you. Nothing occurred. I'm not sure why I dressed like that. Perhaps since other ladies were dressed similarly, I felt uneasy. But I guarantee nothing else occurred. I can understand that. But why didn't you inform me about Ethan and your encounters if nothing actually happened? I did not want to upset you. He is my supervisor, and I could not afford to lose my job. If something severe had happened, I would have informed you immediately. Do you understand?" she implored, her voice shaking. I calmed her with a kiss and softly held her as she wept. This was the beginning of my month-long retribution scheme. That night, we made love, and I imagined myself as one of her numerous partners. I refused to deny myself the pleasure of her body or warn her of what was about to happen. Her acting was flawless, but I was unimpressed. She was more impassioned than ever, attempting to persuade me of my unique position in her heart. This process lasted for several weeks. Every night her performance was spectacular, and I just adored the show. The next morning I checked the cloud for new messages from Ethan. Unsurprisingly, she did not disappoint. Oh my God, someone photographed us at the fair and emailed them to David. His acquaintance noticed me in the restaurant without David. I'm not sure whether he's aware, but the footage shows us kissing. Damn, now that you mention it, I remember a man with a phone across from us observing. But I didn't think much of it. How did David react? Nothing. I convinced him that nothing occurred. I said I was inebriated and he believed me. A few kisses and wonderful lovemaking are usually effective. Be cautious, baby. We decided to meet tomorrow, at 1 p.m. as usual. Cannot wait. I love you, baby. I love you too, Kat. That was the final message, and I sat there, taking it all. I felt like the world's biggest fool, yet there was some thrill in plotting my retribution. I enjoyed watching Madison's antics and waited to see how many more lies she would tell. My initial move was to safeguard my finances by moving monies, canceling accounts, and so on. I left my primary Visa card operational, but reduced the limit to $3,000 to prevent any damage. Madison seemed unconcerned about my growing rage and saw no difference. I clarified with my lawyer that because the house was mine before the marriage, I would not be compelled to leave if I filed for divorce. Naturally, I created an email including videos, texts, and images, which I then forwarded to all of her connections, friends, family, and co-workers. I also created identical binders from my own account for Mrs. Walker and Mrs. Green, guaranteeing that they would share in their husband's shame. These would be delivered alongside the legal notices and filings. I told my lawyer to prepare public civil complaints against both Ethan, her supervisor, and John, the company's CEO. Given the company's popularity on the East Coast, my lawyer appreciated the opportunity to include the CEO. We intended to negotiate a settlement before disclosing the CEO and manager's misbehavior. Working with child services attorneys, we pushed for complete custody of the girls and meticulously prepared documentation for the inquiry. Over the next few weeks, everything seemed usual. We cared for the children and spent valuable time together every day. Our chats avoided the elephant in the room, leaving the subject unresolved. My silence pushed her to the verge of lunacy. She must have been tormented by the ambiguity of my thoughts. To further tease Madison, I asked a few probing questions. So Madison, has your supervisor taken any action against you after the fair? Is there anything you would want to share? Armed with information from her chats with Ethan, I marveled at her ability to maintain her charade. It was funny to see her respond, and I could even tell when she was about to lie. She reacted calmly, claiming that nothing had happened, and that everything seemed strange since we were both pretending nothing had happened. She reported that he stayed absolutely professional, and our contact were limited owing to our busy schedules. I sat there with a wry smile, still amazed that the woman who produced my children and whom I adored could lie so easily. That night, I let go of the rest of my wrath. I confronted her, taking advantage of her fragility. Oh my God, David, what happened to you? You're behaving erratically today. I've never seen you so brave and unafraid. I enjoyed it, she said out of breath. What a whirlwind, I thought to myself. I knew this would be our last contact before everything revealed the next day, so I planned to make the most of it. The next afternoon, the sheriff entered Global Tech's office and wanted to meet Mr. Walker. Sheriff Johnson then handed him an envelope. Mr. Walker, you have been served. Walker held the envelope, terrified, alone in his large office. After reading the letter many times, he immediately directed his secretary to bring Ethan to office while also phoning him. Ethan had just been served by the same sheriff. He ran inside Walker's office, leaving them both astonished and perplexed. What the hell? How did this occur? Ethan demanded. If my wife finds out, I'm done. This is your responsibility. You promised me that this woman would never leave us. Ethan, fix this, or I will ruin you and your family. Do you understand? Walker threatened, his tone icy and intimidating. Ethan ran out of the office, waiting for the elevator to take him to the 9th floor, where he planned to talk with Madison. He observed the sheriff heading from the opposite direction, implying that he had arrived from Madison's direction. He burst into her office and found her sat at her desk, tears flowing down her cheeks. She couldn't say anything since she was too emotional. David had wrecked her world just like she had done to him months before. It took her almost an hour to gather her ideas and communicate them. What in the world happened? She muttered, her voice shaking. How did he learn about everything? Madison's voice quivered with terror. Ethan's face was pallid. I've just been served with divorce papers, he stated sadly. What do you mean by us? Madison's astonishment was evident. Walker and I are being sued in a legal proceeding for our activities. We don't know the whole scope of the evidence, but it can't be simply the photographs you saw. You must get David to back down, or Walker will destroy us. He'll ruin my family, Ethan murmured, despair seeping into his tone. Oh my God, this is dreadful, Madison said quietly, feeling the weight of the situation bore down on her. It is beyond bad. You must confront him and persuade him to change his mind. Do everything it takes to stop this. Go home and confront him. Call me tonight if you can, and keep me updated. Madison, shaking, gathered her bags and drove home, her mind racing. Her beloved spouse, the father of her children, was divorcing her. She did not desire a divorce. She sincerely loved David, but couldn't resist the pull of her affair. She needed to convince David that she couldn't face losing him over this. Arriving at an empty house, she discovered the girls at David's sister's place, where they spent every afternoon while she and David worked. She contacted David's sister and asked her to keep the children overnight. Lisa accepted without asking any questions. Madison washed, fixed her hair, applied makeup, and impatiently awaited David's return from work. At 5 p.m., she heard the garage door open and prepared for his arrival. Hello, Madison. I didn't expect to see you tonight. I thought you'd be with Ethan. Oh, wait, he's married with children. This may become embarrassing, David warned, his voice tinged with contempt. David, may we please talk? Madison implored, grabbing his hand and dragging him to the sofa. Despite the strain, she attempted to look cool and collected. David, I was served today, and I realize how upset you are, but I do not want a divorce. I need and adore you. I will not sign these documents. Ethan means nothing to me. Yes, we had sex, but it was not love. I just needed it, and I really apologize. I will never do that again, I promise. Oh, you promise? That is reassuring. Let's just ignore everything and get back to normal. David responded with a sarcastic smile. Madison hugged and kissed him. Thank you, baby. I really adore you. I'm grateful for your forgiveness and understanding. I will not lie to you again, she said, her voice quivering. David gently pulled her away. You are deluded if you believe I can trust you again after all of your lies and treachery. There is nothing left. I gave you several chances, yet you continued to lie, deceive me, and wreck our lives. I know about your daily hotel meetings with your employers. Did you really expect me to accept you back after all this? Have you considered the harm you are inflicting to the girls? I can't simply ignore this. But why target Walker and Ethan? She asked, tears flowing down her cheeks. Because they are a part of the chaos. They are CEOs of a multi-billion-dollar firm. Once I leave here, I'll need money to adequately support the girls. Because they are partially responsible for destroying our marriage and my life, I will also destroy them. I intend to ruin their families, financially punish them, and exploit them in the same way that they abused you. Madison had never seen David so concentrated and focused. The gravity of the situation struck her strongly. She saw that she had lost control of both the circumstance and her spouse. All she could do was plead. Kneeling in front of David, she grasped his knees and begged for forgiveness. David felt a stab of sorrow, but his rage overcame any compassion. He placed her onto the sofa and spoke to her like she was a kid. Listen, Madison. Pack your bags and spend a couple nights with your mother. Get a lawyer, and we can set up a meeting to discuss everything. In the meanwhile, avoid John and Ethan. Things are going to become nasty. Later that evening, Madison explained to her mother that she and David had a quarrel, and that she needed to stay with her for a time. At 10 p.m., she contacted Ethan on his cell phone. Ethan instantly included Walker in a three-way call. Walker, are you here? Madison, are you there? Ethan's voice was tight. Yes, we're here, they both said. Walker's voice was chilly. So, Madison, did you successfully persuade him to drop the litigation and divorce? No. In fact, he booted me out and warned me that this may lead to big problems, she revealed, her voice cracking. Walker burst. Jesus Christ, Ethan, what have you done? Madison, if my wife finds out about this, I am done. You have to correct this, or I will ruin you both. I don't mind what it takes. Make it stop. Madison cried harder. I can't do anything. He's out of control and refuses to listen to me. He will not even return my calls or texts. Walker's voice was steely. Ethan, you need to solve this. Schedule a meeting with David. We will meet somewhere loud and public. Madison, you'll be there too. Ask him to drop the lawsuit in front of us. If he refuses, we'll explain how bad it may be for him and his family. I have individuals who can deal with circumstances like these, and I will not hesitate to employ them to prevent a tragedy. Do you understand what you should do? Yes, Mr. Walker, Ethan said, his voice cracking. Madison, do you understand what you have to do? Yes, Mr. Walker, she muttered. Make it happen tomorrow afternoon. We don't have time to squander, Walker said, before suddenly terminating the conversation. Madison and Ethan hung up, acknowledging the seriousness of the issue. That night, David listened to the taped call, not shocked by their desperate situation. He began to devise his own scheme. The next morning, as planned, Ethan called to set up a settlement meeting. They arranged to meet around 6 p.m. a busy courtyard. At 4 p.m., David met with his private investigator to prepare for the encounter. They employed cutting-edge technology with noise cancellation to record quality sound even in busy areas. A private investigator would also be there to record the encounter for proof. David arrived at 6:15, keeping them waiting to give the private investigator time to set up his camera equipment. As he approached the group, he noticed Madison looking anxious. He welcomed Madison with a calm but forceful voice. David entered the meeting, his stare icy and unwavering. I'm shocked to see you all here together, but I suppose we know where your loyalties lie. What brought us together? Walker cleared his throat. Hello, David. My name is John Walker. I requested the meeting. David's eyes narrowed. Walker, you appear different in person. These videos do not do you justice. I cannot say it is a joy to meet you. Ethan stood behind Walker, fidgeting uneasily. David's glare was merciless. Ethan, the man who slept with my wife and ended our marriage. I can't say it was a joy to meet any of you. Walker, attempting to remain composed, spoke out. I understand why you're angry. I'm not sure how I would respond if I were in your shoes. But we need to speak. Follow me. David did not move. What is on your mind? Walker took a big breath. We want you to discontinue the cases against me, Ethan, and the corporation. David chuckled grimly. Is this all? No, I apologize. Someone must pay for taking away the most important item in my life. He looked at Madison, who was now softly weeping. The only lady I've ever loved, and the mother of my children. Walker's expression stiffened. What will it take for you to drop this and reclaim Madison? Set your price. David shook his head slowly. No amount of money will persuade me to accept her back. She compromised my love, trust, and the lives of our children for a fling with you two. It is out of the question. I'll drop the lawsuits under 2 conditions. First, I want $6 million. Second, I'd like to meet both of your wife, and Madison must admit everything. If you agree, I will conclude the legal processes. Walker's face contorted with rage. Go to hell, David. I'll pay you $200,000 if you sign an agreement to keep this private forever. David grinned, delighted by the little offer. I'll cut it down to $5 million, but your families must know what you did. Walker lost his fury. David, you are cementing your fate. Think about it. Drop the accusations and return Madison. It was only a fling. We can solve this. David took out his phone and sent a few texts. Then he went to his email and sent a pre-written letter to Madison's friends, family, and co-workers, including all of the damning proof, videos, photographs, and messages. He had also arranged for couriers to send parcels to John and Ethan's houses, ensuring that their families could see the proof. Walker's face became pale with wrath. David, are you even listening? What is your response? Will you dismiss the charges? David gave him a direct look. My response to you, John, Ethan, and my wife is, go to hell. Just then, John and Ethan's phones started ringing. It was their spouses. Walker's face distorted in rage as he gave David a vicious glance. Ethan was obviously shivering and appeared to be on the verge of collapse. Madison, perplexed, asked David what was going on. David responded coldly. Check your email in a few minutes and you will understand. Walker accused David after hanging off the phone with his wife. David, you're dead. I'll make sure you suffer for this, he said, storming out of the courtyard. Ethan challenged David, his voice shaking. Why? Why are you doing this to me? David was shocked. Seriously? You've been using my wife, the joy of my life and the mother of my children, for months to plan your little exploits with Walker, and you're astonished someone would retaliate? Everything I gave to your wife was intended to depict you as a horrible guy who has wrecked people's lives. Madison's phone started ringing as her relatives and friends phoned her one after another. She first denied everything, but after checking her email, she saw the proof David had provided. Her jaw fell, and she looked to David, furious. How could you do this to me? She demanded. David's voice was chilly. You made things too simple. I sincerely loved you, but it is over. My lawyer is convinced that once I hand over this audio recording of the meeting to the authorities and social services, I will be granted full custody of the children. You'll be lucky to avoid jail. I'm sorry, but you have to face the repercussions of your actions. Global Tech resolved the claim by paying David $3 million. John Walker was removed as CEO and fired without pay for violating the morality provision in his contract. He lost more than $20 million in stock options and a $10 million severance payment. Walker also received a 10-year jail term for conspiracy to commit homicide, among other crimes. His wife divorced him while he was jailed, and an examination into his business operations left him bankrupt. This news gave David some comfort, and he smiled for the first time in months. Mrs. Green also divorced Ethan, leaving him without money, housing, or support. He received a $2 million fine in a civil suit for conspiracy, adultery, and loss of affection. After losing his job, Ethan started working as a day laborer. David took sad joy in Ethan's demise, knowing that he was now living in poverty. Madison received a 10-year jail term, but with David's assistance, it was reduced to 2 years of house arrest and 8 years of probation for conspiracy. She lost custody of the children, and David was granted full custody. Despite her attempts, she was unable to obtain a divorce because of the overwhelming evidence against her. She found herself homeless after being released, as David owned the house. She went into a severe despair and now lives in her mother's basement. Her family turned against her, and she lost visiting privileges to her children. David's email revealed a previously unknown dark side of Madison, destroying her support network. Madison appears unable to forgive herself. She is on medicine after many suicide attempts and has been in and out of psychiatric hospitals for months, attempting to cope with the lives she devastated. David now devotes all of his time to his girls, free from job. The divorce allows him to concentrate solely on parenting his children. Since Madison's suicide attempts, the girls haven't seen their mother, but they have plenty of support from David's sister and mother. They will recover from this terrible experience without permanent consequences. While retribution provided David with a little sense of pleasure, it cannot totally heal his wounds. He still loves and forgives Madison, but the recollection of her treachery is seared in his consciousness. Taking care of his girls keeps him engaged and prevents loneliness. However, owing to betrayal, lies, and deception, David will have to wait years before he can open his heart to love and trust again.